Hi guys, my name is Jorik. Welcome to another video of my outdoor series. In this video we're going to talk about the 4 most common tarp setups. Before we get into the video, I want to show you some tarp options. So the first one is a cheap tarp, and this is the one you can buy with grommets. And we all know that they tear easily. The second option we have is a little bit more expensive option. This costs twice about the price that this one costs, but it gives you also twice the coverage. And also this is a tarp with tie-outs, no grommets, and they don't tear that easily because they are just stitched onto the tarp. So same weight, same volume, twice the coverage, and more long lasting. Now the last option that I brought with me is not something I'm going to show in this video, but it's just if you are used to tent camping and you want to try it without spending a lot of money on a tarp. A sheet of Mylar that you can get in the hardware store can act as a tarp very easily, and it doesn't have grommets or tie-outs, and you don't have to fabricate them. The only thing you can do is grab something like grab a little bit of volume, like a pine cone or a smooth stone, or even a bit of sand. Tuck it in where you want to tie out, and now you can put a piece of rope around it and use this as a tie-out. Now the Mylar is the cheapest option out of them all, has the most coverage, but it's not as long lasting as the other ones are. But the good thing is, if you like to camp in a tent, you can always cut this to pieces afterwards to be used as a second bottom underneath your tent for heavy rainfall, or if your inner tent bottom is damaged. Okay, now for this video we're going to use those 2 options. This is not because of the size difference, but I want to demonstrate the tie-out that is in the middle of this tarp and the extra space that you get from it. So most of the time you will see this tarp, not for the grommets, not for the size, but just for the tie-out in the middle. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so the first setup that I wanted to show you is the A-frame. Now the A-frame protects you a lot against wind and rain if you set it up correctly, because it's basically a tunnel. So if you set it up along with the wind, you're going to have a rough time, but if you set it against the wind, you will have a very nice rest. So the way you want to do this is, I'm going to show you a bit of the surroundings, and as you can see here, we have a bit of a natural trail. So the wind has a very easy time to travel in this direction. So that is not the direction we want to set it up. If I turn 90 degrees, we see that we have a lot of saplings here that stop the wind, and a lot of deadfall on this side that it will stop the wind also. So our best option would be in this direction and not with the trail. So I'm going to show you now. Okay, so for the A-frame you are going to need 2 points that are above ground level, like trees or a frame that you make yourself. I'm going to use trees because they're available. I'm going to show you how. Now for every shelter I'm going to show you, the height of your pitch is going to be around your waist. That is going to be the general height. Now you have to consider the size of your tarp and if you want more or less workspace. You can buy and carry stakes, or you can just make them, and I made them. I made 4 for this setup, and with bigger stakes they tend to have more friction to go in the ground, so you might need a baton. I didn't find a baton, but I found something else, and it will work just as well hammering these stakes down. Okay, so I'm going to show you this very quickly because this is going to be the way I do it for every setup. I just put a ridge line between two trees, and as you saw me stake down 4 of the stakes and then only had to readjust 1 stake. The way I attach the tarp to the ridge line is without any kind of knot. I just pulled the rope through and put a toggle through it on the other side as well. And the great part about this is the more the wind blows, the tighter this will get, so you don't have to worry about that this will slide down. So this is how it looks from the inside. As you can see, you don't have a lot of space to move. You don't have workspace here, but the best part about the shelter is that it's low profile. It keeps you warm with your own body warm because it reflects right down again on you, and it protects you from the rain and the wind. You can also put your pack and the rest of your gear with you in the shelter, and even use it to block one exit of the shelters to keep more wind out if you so desire. So on to the next shelter. Okay, so the next shelter I'm going to show you is going to be the lean-to. The lean-to is the easiest shelter of them all, and unlike the A-frame, this will not protect you as much against the wind. It will protect you from the rain. It won't keep you warm with your own body heat, but in return we get more workspace, and we can actually build a fire in front of the shelter. So when we set this up, you don't have to worry about the wind as much. You more have to make sure that you got shelter and workspace in front of the shelter. I'm also going to use the bigger tarp because it has a tie out in the middle, so size doesn't matter, but it's the tie out that will make the biggest difference that I want to demonstrate to you guys. So without further ado, let's get into the building. Okay, for this shelter it's the same as the A-frame. You also need 2 points that are above ground level to attach your tarp to, and I'm going to attach this a bit above my waist because it's very nice weather. I don't expect a lot of wind and a lot of rain today, so I can easily put my pitch a bit higher and give myself a more comfortable shelter and a bit more space to work with. So as you can see, I have a bit of a tight spot over there, and the spot chosen doesn't give me all the amount of room I actually need. But I'm not going to pick another spot because sometimes it just is what it is, and you have to improvise a little bit. And I just went in between the saplings. They are strong enough, and it's tight anyway, so just gonna roll with it. And as you can tell, this is a lot more spacious than the other shelter already. And that is not because I use a bigger tarp, but because we used the whole tarp to go in one direction and not fold it in half in the middle. Now, the difference between this tarp and the other one that I showed you earlier, this one is a tie out in the middle, and I not used the tie out yet, but I'm going to use it now, and you will see how much more space this will get only by the tie out, not extra material. So as you can see, we can sit a lot more further in the back of the shelter now. We have some workspace even underneath the protection of the shelter itself to work, to create a fire, and then afterwards we move it out to where we're actually going to build a fire. And with this setup we can actually build a long fire to keep us warm during the night. Okay guys, so before I built the shelter, I told you guys that we can't keep ourselves warm using body heat as much as we can with the A-frame shelter, and to combat that we can build a long fire in front of the shelter because we have a lot of more workspace, and that is what I demonstrated here for you guys, where we would build the long fire, how we would do it. And as you can see, if it starts to rain, we can even start the beginning of the fire underneath our shelter and then move it out to light the long fire. Now I'm lucky that there's a fallen tree right here with a lot of limbs laying down already, so I can gather wood from there. But if you have to gather wood, what you want to do is lay it at the sides of your shelter, and that will combat even a bit of wind coming in. Okay, so the third shelter that I wanted to show you is going to be the Plough Point. The Plough Point is a bit of a modification to the original lean-to, and it's a bit different than the A-frame, but it gives you both benefits from it basically gives you the best of both worlds from both of the shelters. So you're better protected against the rain and the wind than the lean-to would, but less than the A-frame. But it will give you more workspace, and it will also allow you to build a fire. Not a long fire, but you can build a fire. It is also a little bit of less. It's more low profile, I mean, than the lean-to, but it's higher profile than the A-frame. So if you want the best of both worlds without compromising too much, the Plough Point would be the best option. So as you can see, it is very easy to change from one setup to the other. The only downside to this is that the tie out in the middle isn't optimal for this, so I'm going to rearrange it and show you guys the proper way. Now as you can see, we got a lot of more space in this setup than the original A-frame shelter. We have less space than in the lean-to shelter, but once again I want to show the importance of the middle tie-out and how much more spacious this shelter will get. Now another option would be to place a stick in the middle. That is going to limit the amount of space and going to limit your movement a lot in the shelter, and it's not very pleasant. But I will demonstrate this to you. So this is an easy fix, and as you can see, this is very comfortable to sit and even to start a fire to cook on. You can't build a long fire because you won't benefit as much from it as you would with the the lean-to. But what this allows you to do is you can put yourself much deeper into the shelter. If you stake it down on the sides as well, you can get a lot more out of the wind and get a lot more cover from the rain. As you can see, the rain can't get to me, but I got more space than I had with the A-frame. For comparison, I'm just going to show you really quick what the other tarp looks like, just to get an idea, just because I used two different sizes of tarps. So So yeah, this is a quick comparison for you. If you want more workspace, just higher the pitch. If you want it to be more low profile and more protection against wind and rain, just lower the pitch, and that goes for every of the other shelters as well. Okay, so without further ado, let's go to the last tarp setup. This is going to be a setup that looks a lot more like a tent, because it resembles a bit of a cocoon like a tent does. You're also going to have the same amount of workspace that you're going to have in a tent. The only downside is that you can't do it with a small tarp as this, and you almost have to have the tie out in the middle, because you can use a stick to pull the middle up, but a tie out is really necessary, and that is really going to be what sells the last setup. And it's going to be a modified lean-to, another one I'm going to show you guys now. Before I built this last shelter, I'm going to say that this is the most demanding of all shelters, because this needs a lot of requirements. Like, you have to have two high above ground posts. You have to have 2 trees that are aligned. In order to create this shelter, you also have to have 4 stakes to put it down at least. Also, if you want to make a long fire, you have to have space in front. So these are things you have to consider. You have to have a bigger tarp, you have to have the tie out in the middle to really sell this shelter configuration. But otherwise than that, it will give you the best cover and the most amount of workspace that you can have combined out of the tarp. And it also has the lowest pitch, because because of the tie out in the middle really pulls it up, and it will give you the most protection. So without further ado, I will show you how I built the shelter. So as you can see, this pitch is lower than my waist, and it's lower than a lot of the other configurations that I did earlier today. Yeah. So as you can see, this is a very spacious shelter for very low pitch. You've got a lot of workspace here. You can even put a second person, you can even bring a second person to sleep in this. And this low pitch will enable you, while using the tie out in the middle, this will enable you to keep the warmth, and like an A-frame, use your body heat to generate warmth, keep you out of the wind, keep you out of the rain. You can even, with this setup, you can build a long fire in front of the shelter. Just make sure you leave enough space, of course, and also keep in mind that you have to exit the shelter, so don't get yourself trapped in the shelter. But this shelter combines basically both of every way, and like every shelter, if you want more workspace instead of more protection against the elements, just higher the pitch, and that is what I'm going to do to show you guys now. So as you can see, heightening the pitch makes a major difference, and this is more appropriate for the weather it is right now. Although I would prefer a lean-to in this. Although today I would prefer a lean-to. But as you can see, you got a lot of space in here, and I will show you guys. You can see you got a lot of space in here. You can lay whatever you want. And the best way to set this up is, again, treat the front like it is an A-frame and treat the back like it's a lean-to, and it's as easy as that. Don't forget to tie out in the middle, because this is really what sells this setup. And now I'm just going to show you guys the outside. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Jesus. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you enjoyed the setups. I hope you learned something. And thank you very much. See you in the next video.